Make sure y'all stay on point with
The Puncher's Point.
What is good, y'all? Welcome back to the Puncher's Point. Now, I wanted to make sure I had as many special guests on the podcast as possible for this May 2nd card. And our good friends in the red corner, they've been on this podcast many, many times, but there was always that one guy missing. It was always, where's Tomo? Where's Waldo? It was always, where's Tomo? But you know what? We got him on the podcast today. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into the topic of Teofimo Lopez and Arnold Barboza for that WBO Junior Welterweight Championship, we're going to pass it around to Tomo. Tomo, introduce yourself to the audience today.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? For the folks in the back that can't hear me, but how y'all doing back there? But when you said where's Tomo, man, I gotta run with that. I'm gonna write that down. I might start wearing a striped shirt and some glasses too, man. But I definitely appreciate you having me on here. It's definitely a long time coming. You have done 2 episodes on the R2L network, the main show and in the red corner. So it's the gift that keeps on giving. And like we always say at R2L, we one big family. So again, I appreciate you for having me on. Find me at Refuse to Lose Sports. That's on YouTube. I can give you all the Instagrams and stuff, but I'll give y'all that later because we got some boxing to talk about. But you can also find me on at @in_the_red corner on Instagram. And Ty, don't hurt me if I got it wrong, but charges to my head and not my heart. Let's get to talking about some boxing, man.
We got you. We're going to make sure we have all that information to your social media along with the in the red corner, refuse to lose in the bio below. But we're going to get straight into it. Teofimo Lopez versus Arnold Barboza for that WBO Super Lightweight Championship. Now, I will say this, okay? This whole event has been crazy. I mean, they got just the right personalities to make this the most entertaining thing possible. The content has been nothing but great that they've been putting out with all 6 of these guys. But Arnold Barboza and Teofimo Lopez, I would argue that's the most that fight got a little bit of heat towards it. And obviously, you can go back to the face-off when Arnold Barboza touched Teofimo's cowboy hat, and then Teofimo slapped him in the face-off. You can go back to all of that. But overall, ever since then, it seemed pretty laid back. It doesn't seem like anybody's gone off the deep end, off the railings. But regardless, if I had to point to one fight that has the most intensity, it would be this one. And this is the only fight, I believe, as far as all 3 in total, this is the only one that has a title on the line. Because I believe Devin Haney's also doesn't have a title on the line. I believe Jose Ramirez and Devin Haney, when I looked up on BoxRec, I didn't see no title listed. So, with that being said, let's kick it off. We're going to start off with the champion, the WBO Super Lightweight Champion, Teofimo Lopez. Now, as far as what I had, here's the thing with Teofimo Lopez. I could argue that Teofimo Lopez is one of the most gifted boxers in boxing. I mean, when this guy is on, he is on. And I've said it many, many times, I'm going to stick to saying it. All personal things, toss it out the window. When Teofimo Lopez is on, when he is going up against the very, very best, whether that was Lomachenko, who was a pound-for-pound number 1, or whether that was Josh Taylor, who at the time was the best super lightweight in the world, he goes in there and he shows out. He always comes in clutch in the big moments, especially in New York. In New York, that seems to be his place right there, and he really does seem to shine in New York. So for me, what I love about Teofimo, and as far as the strengths when he is on his game, you go to the things that really matter. And for me, I would say basically with Teofimo Lopez, for me, I would say his strengths are the best strength I could give to him is he's very good at disguising his counterpunches. He's very good at using feints, and he's very good at forcing opponents to open up. To me, that is Teofimo's best strength. And it's crazy because if you watch Teofimo in real time, he's a very, very patient fighter, and especially since moving up to 140, he's been a very, very patient fighter. And every single time you see this guy fight, he's always waiting for the perfect opportunity. He's always using feints, and when he ends up, whether it's the body or going up top, this guy is always very good at disguising what he's going to do next. A lot of these punches that he be hitting guys with, they don't see him. And Teofimo Lopez is a very, very, very crafty fighter. Um, for me, what I would say with Teofimo Lopez, a very versatile fighter. And the thing is about him, people don't give him enough credit for this. And I think the reason why is because I will say that Teofimo, if the competition is low, he really doesn't show much. If you ever noticed that to Jermaine Ortiz, you got Sandor Martin, there was a lot of fights where you can look at and you can say Teofimo really didn't show much. Even in the Steve Claggett fight where he won and it was pretty obvious that he won and it was a good win, he really didn't show much. But when you look at the fights like the Josh Taylor fight and the Lomachenko fight, when you're looking at the strengths of Teofimo Lopez, what I will say is he does have impressive defense. I will say that right now. Teofimo Lopez, when it comes to his defense, what I will say is this: he's not one of those guys that just relies on his footwork. He's not one of those guys that is constantly relying on catching punches with the guard. This guy is constantly moving his head. This guy is constantly dodging and weaving, evading punches. He's constantly trying to pick angles. And that is as great as Teofimo Lopez is. His biggest strength to me is how crafty he is and how he's able to disguise all of his punches and basically hit opponents with shots that they can't see. The problems with Teofimo Lopez, besides him fighting down to his competition, what I noticed about the Jermaine Ortiz fight, he's not really good at cutting off that ring. That's what I will say. I don't think Teofimo Lopez is good at cutting off that ring. And I like Teofimo Lopez as a fighter. I love Teofimo Lopez as a fighter, but he cannot cut off that ring. He loves guys that are gonna stand there and are not gonna move around a lot. And to me, that is a very interesting question, a very interesting situation that could be imposed in this fight because Arnold Barboza is very good with movement. So I will say in this fight with Teofimo Lopez, that is one thing that really concerns me. Can he cut that ring off? Can he minimize the space for Arnold Barboza? And can he basically put him into a hole where Teofimo can work? The other thing about him too is if you notice, so he's been knocked down by Sandor Martin. He's been knocked down by George Kambosos. What I noticed is both of those knockdowns has always been from a right hand. That's what I have noticed. Is it's always been from a right hand. And again, it makes me question, well, could that be the punch that Arnold Barboza shocks him with? Is that right hand? And regardless, I'm not going to say you need to have all the power in the world to even knock down Teofimo with that shot. Sandor Martin, that's a perfect fighter. I mean, Sandor Martin isn't really known for knockout power, but he knocked down Teofimo, and it was off of something as simple as a mistake. Teofimo lunging in a little bit too much, and then Sandor Martin caught him, lost balance, got knocked down. So that could happen to anybody, and it doesn't take the strongest fighter to do that. So for me, that is also another question I have for Teofimo Lopez. The other thing I will say too is in the Kambosos fight, the thing is with Teofimo Lopez, whatever pace that fight is, he's going to try to work with it. If you're going to try to make it a chess match, he's going to try to make it a chess match. If you want to make it a brawl, he's going to try to engage in that brawl. And that's what happened with that Kambosos fight. That Kambosos fight was a dog fight. Both of those guys, they had marks at the end of that fight. Both of those guys were in a war. And Teofimo, he got clipped with some shots he shouldn't have got clipped with. And honestly, it's because he stayed on that inside and he wanted to make it a war with Kambosos. And that, to me, is not the style I would like to see from Teofimo, even though it was still a close fight. And obviously, we know the result. They gave the win to Kambosos. Kambosos ended up winning that fight. The problem is, I don't like Teofimo in those situations. I like Teofimo when he's playing chess. And he said it, and this is his words, and he is absolutely right. The best Teofimo was when he's having fun in that ring. That is the best Teofimo you were going to get. When he is having fun in that ring and he's not trying to brawl with another opponent, when he's not trying to risk everything and just throw haymakers and everything in the kitchen sink. That's not the Teofimo I want to see. And then last but not least, this one's a very important one. That power has not translated at 140. If you go back to 135, Teofimo was knocking guys out left and right, especially on his rise when he was going to go fight Lomachenko. Ever since hitting 140, I mean, honestly, the power really hasn't been there. He's had to rely more on his boxing ability. He's had to rely more on going to 12 rounds and going the distance, which is why I said him going up to 140, it's really helped with his endurance because a lot of these fights he's been having to go to 12 rounds. The question is he going to be able to catch up with somebody like Arnold Barboza, who is able to move around the ring a lot, who's able to present different looks that maybe Teofimo Lopez didn't see? But for me, those would be the strengths and weaknesses for Teofimo Lopez. But enough of me yapping. We're going to pass it right on to the guests. Tomo, give it to me. The strengths and the weaknesses for Teofimo Lopez.
Me, it's funny that you say the strengths, because one of the weaknesses I was going to point out was the fact that he talks too much. But hey, that's what some people would say. But style make fights, and you also got to sell fights. So some of the things he said, you kind of look at it and be like, "All right, Tio, you too good for this." And this goes back to me talking about a little bit of the strengths thing, because you said it. It was the power, the aggression, the counter skill, punching. It's all there, and you could see it. The only one time, and you talked about it a little bit with the George Kambosos fight, was when he got too aggressive. Like you came out and you was just ready to jump jump on everything, and you kind of had some mental lapses there, and it's like, Tio, calm down. You can do this.
So glad you mentioned him talking too much because one of the strengths I had is he loves mind games. When Teofimo is calm, I love Teofimo when he's calm, when he's just talking. Because when he was doing the back and forth with Josh Taylor got so pissed he left the room. And right then and there, I was like, Josh Taylor's done for because he's already in your head. The fact that you had to leave the room because you were tired of him. But go back to the Kambosos fight. Kambosos was getting under his skin. They
Yep.
kept having those back and forth. They kept having those shouting matches. And I think Teofimo went into that ring thinking, we're going to make this a brawl. I really want to mess this guy up. And he was getting too aggressive. But I'm going to pass it on to you. I'm so glad you mentioned him talking.
Oh no, that's good because it goes back to one of the things I'm gonna piggyback off of. A lot of what you said is kind of what I had in my notes, but the thing about him talking trash is that chess match he plays is to see like, okay, if I say this, what can really tick you off? Because again, with boxing, we all know it's like, all right, I'm at a certain weight, you at a certain weight, and I kind of seen you for a while. We watched the film, we know how each other is, but again, everybody has a plan until you get hit in the face, right? So with that fight, it was more of a I gotta watch and see what's happening here. Once I found the one thing to tick you off, boom, now I can go. And the experience again in the ring is going to be there. But that aggression, the strength of his, the same thing with the counter punches and the speed is also going to be a weakness going into this fight too. Because we got a guy that he's going up against with a great jab. So it's like, are you going to have enough stamina? Because that's what failed you in the Lomachenko fight. It was like you kind of got worn down, but we all get a little bit older, so you gain some more weight. You like, all right, can I really move around at this weight? You still think you a spry chicken, and then boom, here you go. Now again, with the same thing on the weakness side, stamina means defense. You're gonna start dropping your hands. You can't be as aggressive as you want to be. So Tio, are you gonna be able to go into them later rounds with this guy who got that constant jab there? Because once some jabs start hitting, it's kind of like paper cuts after a while. They're gonna start stinging, and then can you react? That right hand. Funny thing talking about the slap. What was that knocked this cowboy hat off? It was a right hand, but the slap was quick though. The slap was quick, but it was the right hand that got the hat off. So it was like that's a little preview of the fight there. So again, Tio, I really just want in this fight you to really lean on your strengths as far as your counter punching, your aggression, find it in times, but with the weaknesses, I want you to learn from your mistakes and the mental lapses and talking trash and all of that. You can do it, but make sure you don't get overly aggressive and you get that knockdown like you did against Kambosa.
Absolutely right. I'm glad you mentioned the cowboy hat too, because boxers are so intricate when it comes to those things. They will do anything in face-offs, whatever the case might be. They will do anything just to even get a little bit of a tell. I can even go back to like when Devin Haney fought Lomachenko, and they go touch gloves, and instead of touching gloves, Devin Haney goes and he touches the body right before they go into the next corners. It's the tiny things like that. Javante Tank Davis, trying to make Frank Martin flinch just to see how he's going to react to that, or like the speed and everything. They're always sizing each other up. Every single time I feel like two boxers meet that have a potential to fight, there's always something that they're trying to do to size each other up. Even when Conor Benn and Ryan Garcia were at the Ring Magazine Awards, and Ryan Garcia put his arm around Conor Benn, when you go and you look at it, all these things, I truly believe that these are ways that boxers are trying to get a feel for the other guy, just to get a little bit of some extra information that they could use just in case something good happens from it, or just in case they need it for a fight that's coming up. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that. But as far as Arnold Barboza, here's the thing. The question is, can Arnold Barboza shock Teofimo Lopez? And in my opinion, this is I love Teofimo again. I will say a million times, Teofimo Lopez as a fighter, love it. I love the way he fights. I love the style, everything like that. This is the fight that is most at risk for an upset. I'm gonna say that right now. I'm not saying it's gonna be one. I'm not saying it ain't. You're gonna have to stay tuned to this episode and get the prediction to hear that. But this is the one that's at most risk, and the reason why I say that is because out of all the guys that are fighting, Rolly Romero, I mean, he's got power, but that's all set up for Ryan Garcia. Devin Haney, again, he's going up against a Jose Ramirez who hasn't really been in his prime in a decent minute. Teofimo Lopez is going up against an undefeated Arnold Barboza who just came off of beating Jose Ramirez and Jack Catterall. And Jack Catterall was on a heat streak before he beat him. So you got to also, even though that was a close fight, you also got to keep that in mind. So as far as Arnold Barboza, well, what are the strengths for him? Well, like you mentioned, great jab. Arnold Barboza has a very, very consistent jab. He's constantly throwing that jab. And I'm going to be honest with Arnold Barboza, maybe not the way they stand or like everything like that, but he has a lot of similarities to Devin Haney. A lot of similarities to Devin Haney in the way that he jabs, in the way that he's constantly sneaking shots to the body. Arnold Barboza, even though he loves to come forward, I'm not going to say he has the same footwork as Devin Haney, or he's got the same head, because he definitely doesn't have the same head movement as Devin Haney. Because as a matter of fact, Arnold Barboza's weakness, in my opinion, is head movement. He doesn't do too much of that head movement, and when he's using his footwork, he doesn't have the same footwork as Devin Haney, where he can cut, where Devin Haney can throw a 1-2 punch combination, cut an angle, and go around and move around the fighter. Arnold Barboza ain't like that. Arnold Barboza relies too much on that back foot. And that could also be a problem as well, because Teofimo starts pushing you back, and you start moving back towards that corner, and you start shrinking that space on him. It's game. So for me, those would be the two biggest weaknesses for Arnold Barboza. But as far as the strengths, if he's gonna hurt a guy, it's definitely gonna be to the body. I will say that Arnold Barboza, he is a very, very good body puncher, a very dangerous body puncher. And I know a lot of those body punch knockouts happened like early in his career, but regardless, that guy is constantly going to the body. And if he's gonna knock somebody out, it's through the body. I don't think it's gonna be. He did have an incredible knockout, obviously, that they kept on recording, that they kept on posting on Top Rank and everything like that. He did have one of those clean knockouts where he laid the guy out, but the body shot is the punch. If there was a betting odds as to if Arnold Barboza were to get a knockout, how it's going to be, I would predict body punches. He's very good at controlling the pace of a fight, and he's a very patient fighter as well, and he's very good at finding openings. And last but not least, he don't get too greedy. He doesn't get too greedy. You're not going to see Arnold Barboza go into all these brawls and exchanges and everything like that. You're not going to see Barboza do the dirty work and get into the inside and start trading blows with guys. That's not what you're going to see from Arnold Barboza. What you're going to see from him is him controlling the pace, him controlling the spacing. You're going to see those quick 2-3 punch combinations and him slipping out. But you won't really see Arnold Barboza get too greedy in a lot of fights. And last but not least, I will say this. If I'm going to point to one weakness besides the footwork and besides the head movement and all of that stuff, he tends to get clipped with jabs and straights. I will say that he tends to get clipped with a lot of those jabs and a lot of those straight punches that are coming forward. And Teofimo Lopez, he got a nice straight right. So, and he's got a very and Teofimo Lopez, let's not knock his jab either. So, there's definitely a lot of weaknesses that Teofimo can capitalize on in this fight to win this fight. But regardless, since you already mentioned, given a little preview about what you had for Arnold Barboza, I would love for Tomo to complete it and finish it. Tomo, strengths and weaknesses for Arnold Barboza. Let's hear him.
All right. So as far as the strengths, already, like you said, I already said it's there with the jab, and as far as his patience, but that the body work is one of the things that I did notice even more. And I was like, I'm trying to, again, styles make fights. So it's kind of like, how is he going to do this when he goes up against an aggressive fighter? And is Tio actually going to come out aggressive? So that's where it's kind of going to dictate where he wants to go with this fight. Again, I'm with you on the fact that if he does start trying to fight off his back foot, there's a lot of boxers that can't fight off their back foot. So again, that's just no knock to any boxer out there, but some people just not great at it. Some people are. But in this fight, you're going to have to definitely be effective with that jab. You're going to have to definitely be effective with that composure that you have, because you showed it a little bit against Ramirez. Same thing with the jab too, is that it can work. The Catterall one was also another strength where it's kind of like, ooh, the accuracy, the jab is everything there. He's a hot fighter. He's kind of been holding his patience throughout most of this, because again, with Tio and all, I don't know what they were doing on this press run where they was having sit-arounds and powwows with all the boxers. I don't know what that was. I like it as a fan, but just the mental edge on it is a little crazy. Also, going back to the weaknesses, to touch on the weaknesses a little bit, this can go back to what we said prior to that face-off. I mean, that was a right. That was the slap. I mean, it was there, but you also seen, like I said, with the cowboy hat, that was a right with the jab. So he kind of got a little bit of a sizing up, because he also does have the length on him as well, as far as like the reach. The reach. So he's kind of letting you all know. I can't tell y'all who gonna win it, because of the weaknesses. I think they have a lot of similarities as far as like how they can break down in a fight, but they also have a lot of strengths that match each other. So for Barboza to actually win this one, he's going to have to rely on jab control, keeping the distance, keeping the pace, finding his shots, like you said. And I think, I'm not going to say it right now, but I agree with one of the things that you said. If you were listening, make sure y'all take some notes, but that could be the way this fight ends. I'm going to say that. And just be prepared to probably go 12 rounds.
For sure. And the thing that I have the question on too is, if you look at Teofimo's last opponents beside, like, around Josh Taylor, Steve Claggett, Jermaine Ortiz, Sandor Martin, and Pedro Campa. In my opinion, that's not the best competition. I mean, if you're gonna look at all four of those names, honestly, maybe Sandor might be the best name on there. I mean, you could argue Jermaine Ortiz, but those guys, I mean, recently, like he's been just in a slump. I mean, the Jermaine Ortiz fight was lackluster. The Steve Claggett fight was like even though he did what he had to do to win, and he did obviously defeat Steve Claggett, like it was obvious that he won that fight. There wasn't anything too crazy about it. Steve Claggett was a guy that they expected him to TKO, and it didn't happen. So Teofimo needs a big fight. He needs this exciting fight, and he needs a good win against somebody like Arnold Barboza, who is undefeated with 32 wins. So for me, that's all of it right there. Right there, Teofimo needs a good fight right here. And maybe, he gets better marketing, or since he's, now partnering up more a little bit with Riyadh Season and Turkey Al Sheikh, maybe he gets a little bit better marketing, or maybe he gets a little bit better advertisement. Hopefully after this fight, maybe he gets some better fights. But the truth is, I mean, Teofimo Lopez has not been marketed correctly under Top Rank. I mean, you're putting him up against Steve Claggett, Jermaine Ortiz, and another part of that, another reason is some of it's also Teofimo's fault. When because I was waiting to see him and Sabriel Matias. I didn't see that fight happen anywhere, regardless of whose fault that is. I didn't see any of that. He called out Crawford, and obviously Crawford wasn't interested in fighting him and everything like that. But I didn't see much. There was the whole beef with him and Devin Haney back in the day. We could have had that fight maybe 2 years ago. I didn't see the fight. So overall, I think it's time for Teofimo to start turning his career back into the right direction, opposed to just fighting guys that we know he can beat. And I think it starts with Arnold Barboza. So, with that being said, we go straight to the betting odds. Now, here's what I will say, okay? For the betting odds, I'm going to be using FanDuel, and you might be shocked by what they have for the odds. So, Teofimo Lopez is a minus 260 favorite, while Arnold Barboza is a plus 194 underdog. Those are some pretty tight odds. Those are some pretty slim odds. I was expecting maybe Teofimo Lopez to be at least in the 400s. Not like 260. I mean, these are slim. And when you look at the method to victory as well, the most common method to victory that they got is Teofimo Lopez winning by decision. The least likely is Arnold Barboza winning by knockout or TKO. That makes sense. Besides, obviously, a draw. A draw is always going to be most likely the least likely thing to happen. But when I'm looking at those odds, those are pretty slim. For a fight that's supposed to be set up for Teofimo to win. That's a pretty slim odd share when you really look at it. So with that being said, before we get to the predictions, I just want to get to the key. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to pass it on to Tomo first. If you had to point to one main key for Teofimo Lopez to win this fight. So basically, it's kind of like fill in the blank. If Teofimo does blank, he will win this fight. What do you think is that main key for him defeating Arnold Barboza on May 2nd?
Like you said, cutting the ring off, getting close to him, cutting off that distance, and making him fight off his back foot.
1000%. I absolutely agree with that. And those were the keys that I also had for Teofimo. I just want to say the one key that I will add to that is use your jab and your straight right to set up combos. Other than that, perfect. Those to me would be the perfect three keys for Teofimo winning this fight. So now I'm going to pass it back on to you. For Arnold Barboza to defeat Teofimo Lopez, he's going to have to do blank.
Don't turn this into a brawl. If I'm in this camp, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Everything else we got it, champ. Just don't turn this into a brawl.
I agree with that too. Although I have like a little different variation. I don't want him to turn this into a brawl by no means. What I want him to do is to frustrate Teofimo enough to where Teofimo wants to brawl, and then you counterpunch him. And specifically, when you counterpunch him, look for that right counter opportunity. But obviously, you can't just wait for Teofimo to make a mistake, because if Teofimo's on his game that night, he's going to make very little mistakes. So unless you're looking to just hit him with a one-punch knockout and walk out of there, which is very unlikely to happen, like I said, the least likely outcome besides a draw is Arnold Barboza knocking out Teofimo Lopez. The one thing that you have to do is hit him with 2-3 punch combinations and slip out and evade. That's what I would say. Get it? Tomo don't look too 100% sure about that. I would love to hear Tomo's thoughts on that one.
Now, don't let the facial expressions fool you, man. No, I was agreeing with you. I was more so picturing it like, I can see it working. That's what you got to do to get out of this fight, man. Nah, I'm with you.
I got you. But yeah, for me, when again, that's the perfect time to force him to try to engage in a brawl. And when he does, you hit him with a 2-3 punch combination on the inside and you slip out. But whatever you do, you don't make that a brawl with Teofimo Lopez. You make him believe that you're gonna brawl, and when he thinks that's gonna happen, that's when he's gonna make those mistakes. That's always how it happens with Teofimo. So with that being said, let's get straight into the predictions. Tomo, I'm going to ask you who you got winning, how do you see it happening, and if you got it by knockout, what round? If you have it by decision, what type of decision? Whether that's split, majority, unanimous. I'm going to pass it on to you. Prediction.
That's a little interesting because I had it going to a decision because of how I just sat back and actually weighed out the two fighters. I did the strength weaknesses. I'm like, it's going to come down to a decision. And with that, even though I said he's going to run his mouth too much, but hey, the marathon will continue with the mouth running. Teofimo going to win by decision. But if I am going to go on a ledge, I just got to go out there on the ledge. My ultimate decision is TL wins by decision. But the risky side of me says TL puts him down in 7 rounds.
You got unanimous decision, split decision?
I'm going to split decision. It's going to be that one ref.
Oh, okay, I got you. I'm not going to lie to you. I think Teofimo desperately needs a big night. I could see unanimous decision, but honestly, I could see maybe like 8th, 9th round TKO. And I'm gonna start. And honestly, dude, when I'm looking at the keys to victory, I'm looking at the weaknesses. I'm gonna try to aim for that. I think it's gonna happen. Maybe I'll go 1 round up. I think it's gonna be 10th round TKO. I think we're gonna see Teofimo finally get that TKO against Arnold Barboza. And the only reason why I say that is because ever since that slap, Teofimo has been as cool as a cucumber. He hasn't even really looked Arnold Barboza's way. If you go back and you look at them sitting in the middle of Times Square having that little round table discussion, he was talking more to Devin Haney than he was even to Arnold Barboza. He didn't even like look at Arnold Barboza. It's at this point, it's like he's not even, Arnold Barboza ain't even on his mind. That could also mean though that he's underestimating Arnold Barboza. It could also mean that he's more interested in chopping it up with Devin Haney or Ryan Garcia and trying to get them baffled and trying to get them out of their element opposed to focusing on Arnold Barboza. And I don't think you should underestimate Arnold Barboza because Arnold Barboza is a good fighter. You know, he might not have like the knockouts to prove it, but he is a good fighter and he could hurt some guys. So I don't know what it is, but as far as what I've seen so far, I see a very calm, collective Teofimo Lopez, and that's what I'm expecting come fight night. And especially in New York, I'm gonna say 10th round TKO. I think he's gonna start it off with a bang. Um, but that's my prediction, yeah. But with that being said, we just gonna have to wait and see. Honestly, this is gonna be a pretty interesting event. This event got me so busy because I'm gonna have to do. I just recorded the prediction episode with a very special guest. Y'all make sure you tune into that. We got this prediction episode. I still got Ryan Garcia and Rolly. Then you got Canelo, and then you got Naoya. It's a busy week. And look, great fights are happening. Shout out to Turkey Al Sheik. But God, dude, Turkey Al Sheik got me working overtime. This dude got me working nights. Got me working some sleepless nights at that too. So Turkey Al Sheik, look, if you gonna plan these big fights, I'm all for it. Can you at least plan them like a week in between so I get some day off to like chill? Come on, man. Like Tomo's like, no, he wants them all like back to back to back. He wants them all 7 days a week. I don't know. My work schedule can't handle it. But I'm loving what he's doing regardless. This man really is saving boxing, you know. He's really putting the money that a lot of these fighters want and they're making the big fights happen. I can't ask for much more. So shout out to Turkey Al Sheik for everything that he's done. But regardless, before we wrap up this episode, I'm gonna pass it right back on to Tomo. Tomo, any shout outs, social media in the red corner, refuse to lose. Let me hear him.
First things first, man, I want to give you a shout out, man. One of the hardest working people on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, wherever platform you can find Punches Point, one of the hardest working people. I'm telling you, there's been times I look at my DMs and I'm like, is he asking me a question? Nope, new episode. I'm like, my man dropping consistent episodes, man. So keep up the good work, keep up the consistency. And I'm with you on the turkey part. Hey, Turkey, if you're going to keep scheduling all these fights, man, you got to start dropping off some money to the little people, man. Like, we keeping these fights going too. You know what I'm saying? So again, shout out to you. I want to say shout out to everybody on the Refuse to Lose network as well. Again, that's at Refuse to Lose Sports on Instagram. That's at R2L Sports on Twitter or X, whichever one you want to call it at the time. And then shout out to my two bros that I do in the red corner with. That's at N_the__red_corner. Ty, you killing me with all the underscores, but I appreciate it. Make sure y'all follow us and make sure y'all follow Punches Point too, man. Continue to follow, man. Keep this boxing thing going because the conversations, we need these type of conversations, especially with people like T.O. acting up and people like Ryan having their moments. So we need just pure boxing content.
1000%. Appreciate all the kind words. Obviously, Ricky, Ty, y'all both are missed. Ty, we're going to get to that little debate in a little bit. You know, make sure y'all hold on to that. And don't think I didn't forget. We're going to make sure we find a time to get on there and have that debate. But overall, in the red corner, especially even the Refuse to Lose network, every single time I got in the red corner out there, I got to shout out Ty, I got to shout out Ricky, I got to shout out Tomo. Y'all doing a great job. And last but not least, I got to shout out Joe Jordan. He's doing an absolutely amazing job just managing all these shows. I mean, whatever sports you want to find, you can find it right there on the Refuse to Lose network. And what I love about them is, unlike, not to diss anybody, but unlike certain networks, it's not the same football, basketball. Let's go back to football. Let's go back to basketball. You got boxing. You got baseball. Mercado does a great job of what he's doing right there. I mean, honestly, he's better than some baseball analysts. You know what I'm saying? And he's gonna have me on that podcast one day because honestly, I got some choice words for the Red Sox. I don't care that they're doing good. I don't trust it for that long. So I got some choice words for them as well. But overall, hey, make sure y'all continue to tune into the Refuse to Lose Network podcast. Make sure y'all definitely continue to tune into In the Red Corner. They're going to keep on dropping bangers after bangers. And with that being said, make sure y'all continue to tune into the Puncher's Point. You know, we're going to be active on the podcast platforms, the YouTube, social medias, wherever you can find us. Make sure y'all find us there. Make sure y'all show support. We love the comments, love the interactions, all that type of thing. Whether you agree or disagree, it don't even matter. But I need y'all to do one thing. I need y'all to do one thing. And this is the one thing that I need y'all to always do. Make sure y'all stay on point with the Puncher's Point.